started at Intel Corporation in 1978, and so for those of you doing the math, that is 41 years ago, almost 42. It'll be 42 in February. I always joke and I say I was 5 years old when I started at Intel, so that you don't think I'm old, but I am. When I started at Intel, I basically call it luck. I lucked into it. I was going to school, university, San Jose State. I was going to become a teacher. I have a passion for working with people, for teaching, and I have just a very strong interest in math and science. I was working, putting myself through school, and my sister actually mentioned that Intel had openings and that I, should consider it as a way to earn more money from the job that I was currently working at. So I started working at Intel in a non-exempt position. The position was called a digitizer, and you can see what they look like. That's not actually me, but it does actually look a lot like me, and the role was very much like that. The role doesn't exist today. In the old days, we used to draw our circuits. Engineers would draw the circuits on a napkin or a piece of paper. They would draw the schematic, and then a mass designer would translate that into a layout that they would draw on a piece of large graph paper, very large graph paper. And a digitizer, the person in the picture, we would paste that graph paper up on what is a light table. You can see the light table, the white behind the lady. And there was a big mechanical arm. And basically you were transposing what was on the graph paper into the computer. You can see the computer terminal that was right next to her. So that was my job, and that was my entry into the field. And by sitting there doing this at night while I went to school during the day, I basically met a lot of wonderful engineers who basically taught me about the benefit of entering into the engineering field. And so I went to school and I spoke to the Dean of Engineering, and I transferred into engineering at school versus in the School of Math and Science that I was currently in. So I basically transferred into engineering. And in 1982, I graduated from San Jose State, and I got my first engineering job as a circuit designer inside of Intel. So I just transferred from the job I was in to the new job, and I got to design circuits. So now I was the person writing on the piece of paper my schematics, and thus having mass designers work for me to translate it into chips. I was very lucky. I truly believe it takes two things to have a good career. One is you got to have the skill and the knowledge and be one of the best that you can be in your job. The second is you have to have luck. There has to be opportunities out there for you to apply that knowledge that you have. And when I entered into engineering, I happened to be lucky because I happened to come at a time where the previous engineer of a product had left on short notice, and they needed somebody to take over the role. Now, this is not something you normally give to a recent college graduate, but since I had worked at Intel, since I pretty much knew my way around, knew how to get things done inside of Intel, I was blessed with getting my own chip from the very start. And so I ramped very, very quickly. Having that opportunity gave me the opportunity to learn fast. So one thing I always have to say, and Intel's really big on it these days, is be fearless. Take on those opportunities that are way more than you can handle at the moment, because that's where you're going to truly learn, and you're going to learn at a very, very fast pace. And that's what I did. I learned at a very quick rate. And basically, I worked my way from 1982 to 1999. I worked my way up the management to becoming a GM of the organization that I was working in. I stayed in the same organization, and I became the general manager for that organization, and we were responsible for producing basically what Intel calls the TIC microprocessors, the TIC CPUs. So I was developing the CPUs that were going into desktop computers, mobile computers, server computers, and it was absolutely an amazing job and an amazing group of people to work with. In 1999, they decided that they were going to basically move the job that I had. They were going to move it out of the organization and move it out into the business units. And so I was out of a job, essentially. I was still in Intel, and I was employed by Intel, but I no longer had the job that I had been doing up until then. And I needed to find a new role inside of Intel. So once again, being fearless, once again, believing in myself and what I could do, I basically took on a new opportunity in platforms, developing platforms for Intel in the server organization, where again, I got to learn a lot of new things. I at that time got to learn, in addition to CPUs, I was learning about BIOS, about boards, about packaging, about the memory ecosystem, about system development. And so it was a great opportunity to once again learn at a very, very fast pace, which I very much enjoyed. And then in 2014, I was tapped on my shoulder to become basically the general manager of the program management office for Intel Custom Foundry. It was a new organization inside of Intel, and they wanted someone with my background in order to help customers design, external companies be able to design their products on Intel process. And so I went and did that until 2017, where basically, unfortunately, Intel Custom Foundry, we were not growing at the pace that we thought and had hoped that we would. I went into, basically moved and decided to go into the Programmable Solutions Group, which is FPGAs, developing FPGAs inside of Intel. And I came to Penang, a very great opportunity to get to live in this wonderful country. I've been here for two years now, and experience basically what it's like to live in a different part of the world, and also in a location that's very diverse and incredibly welcoming. So I've considered this a phenomenal opportunity, and I'm loving every minute of it, and I'm getting, once again, to learn new things. So don't ever stop learning. I haven't, and I don't plan on stopping until maybe after I retire someday. But I got a feeling even then I'll be looking for new ways to learn and apply that learning. So that is my personal career journey. It wasn't the career journey I expected when I entered into the field, but being open and always learning, I basically adapted my career journey based on what I believed is the right thing for me, based on the opportunities that were made available to me. So the question that was asked is, what do I believe are the important leadership traits besides being fearless? The ones that I believe that are important are basically vision. A good leader needs to be able to have a vision, and a vision is, where do they believe that they want to take their organization, their company, their group to? So you can't, if you always stay complacent with where you are, the company will not grow. You will not grow. So you always have to set a target that is, a year, couple of years down the road. And you have to have a vision for what that is. So that is the first thing. In order to, again, grow a company or build a business, have that vision. Second thing that you need to do is basically inspire. Most of the things that you'll want to accomplish in your career, in your business, will require additional people to work on it besides yourself. And you cannot get people to basically reach out and give their passion and their soul and their hearts for that vision unless you can inspire them, unless you can convince them that what you're trying to achieve is doable and is better than where they're at today. So you have to have the ability to inspire, inspiration. The third important trait that I believe is you have to be an effective communicator. You need to be able to communicate basically where you want to go, how you believe you're going to get there, and what are the changes and adaptations you need to make along the way. Okay, so communication. Fourth is you need to be a good listener, because not everything will go the way you planned it to go. There will be changes. So you need to be able to listen to the people that work for you, listen to your customers, listen to the employees, and adapt based on what you're hearing. Last but not least is confidence. You have to always have the confidence that what you're trying to do is achievable, that you'll be able to reach that goal, because there will be what we say in the US is naysayers, people who will not agree with you, who will not believe that you're going to be capable of getting to where you want to get to. And so you have to have the confidence to sustain and continue on that track of where you want to go. So again, these are all of the traits that I believe are important for a leader. And I believe that everyone needs to show these leadership traits from the start of your career to the end of your career. You will progress in your career faster by showing that you have these leadership traits versus being what I would call a follower, somebody who just follows along and does what you're told to do. Instead, we're looking for people who have a voice, a person who could lead and speaks out. So I'm going to speak on one of these 5 traits. The one I'm going to speak to is the effective communicator, because I believe it's truly one of the most important traits, and one that I think that you guys can apply immediately upon graduating. Okay, so what's the power of being a good communicator? Why do I believe it's one of the most important traits out of the 5 I listed? So why I believe it's important to be a good communicator is you are soon about to graduate or have graduated from college, and you will be out interviewing, and employers will be hiring you. And they're going to be hiring you based on the knowledge that you have. And they want to hear that knowledge. They, again, don't want you to come in and just do what you're told to do. They want to hear your opinions. You went to school to learn, and you've learned knowledge that for some of us who have not been in school for a long time may not know. So communicate what you know, because the employers are paying you for your knowledge. Another reason why it's important to communicate is diversity. I truly believe that we can make better decisions, we can make better products, if we listen to diverse opinions and we talk about that. If we start with one person's opinion, usually the leader's opinion, that's one opinion. But if he's surrounded by a great team which I happen to have. I'm very blessed. I happen to have a great team. They will talk to me about what it is, how they can take that idea that I may have and make it better, or that decision that I'm currently, leaning towards, how I could improve that decision, or why I should think of things in a different way. They're bold enough to speak up and speak about their diverse opinions. And as a result of that, we build on each other's ideas and thoughts to come up with better decisions, better products. There we go. Another reason is visibility. If you are speaking out and speaking about your opinion, you are becoming more visible. You're becoming more visible to your employer. You're becoming more visible to your peers. And the value that you bring is becoming more visible. And it's a result of showing that value that you have, that knowledge that you have, that you will get better opportunities and thus, promotion raises, better jobs from it. So for the sake of having visibility and showing what you can do, speak up and communicate. Okay, the first time I showed this, I realized that this is something that we say in the U.S. that may not be a very common saying here. In the U.S., we say that the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So what does that mean? It basically means that, if you have a car and you're driving it down the road and you hear a squeak to it, basically, you, your husband, your mechanic, whoever works on the car, the thing that you will address is that one wheel. You will go give it grease. Likewise, if you speak up and you speak what your opinion is, you become the squeaky wheel. And you will get the attention of your leaders, of your peers, and thus get visibility, thus get better opportunities by mentioning basically what you want to do. I might be in a great job today, but I'm constantly telling my manager, what do I want to do next? And I become that squeaky wheel who's saying that, I want this next opportunity, I want this next job. This is what I'm I aspire to do next. Okay? I'm always looking forward, always having a vision to go forward. Communication is an absolute must-have trait for a manager. If you cannot communicate effectively to your employees, to your boss, you will have a very difficult time leading a group. A manager has to be able to tell their employees what needs to get done, how it needs to get done, what done means, what is their definition of complete. They also need to be able to communicate that information, the results, up to management, and clearly also communicate what decisions need to be made or what direction should be taken. So communication is a required skill in management. There's just no way you could do management without the ability to communicate both up to senior management or down to the employees that work for you. So next I'll talk about how do you become a good communicator. I talked about why it's important to be a good communicator. Now I'll talk about how can you become a good communicator. So starting off first, inside of Intel we call these one-on-ones. Basically it's a meeting with one other individual, so me with someone else. Usually that one-on-one is with your manager. Through that meeting with your manager, and we hold them inside of Intel once a week or once every other week, I'm able to tell my manager what I'm doing, what are the issues that I'm overcoming, and what help, if any, that I need. It gives him visibility into the work that I'm doing, the challenges I faced and overcame in order to keep the project on schedule. So one-on-ones is one way of communicating. Another way of communicating is what I call proactive updates. You can walk inside of Intel anyways, we have what we call an open door policy, meaning any employee is allowed to walk into any other employee or manager's office at any time. And personally, I love it when my employees walk in and tell me what's going on. I call these proactive updates because it's on the spot knowledge of what is happening. What are the problems? What are the issues? And by them walking in and feeling comfortable enough to walk in and talk to me, I'm getting real-time information that my manager may happen to ask me about in the next meeting I've attended. And instead of saying, I don't know, I happen to know because I had employees that were willing to come in and talk to me and give me these updates. Another way of communicating is speaking up in meetings, okay? Don't be a wallflower, what I call a wallflower, somebody who doesn't talk in meetings. In meetings, it's important that you tell what your opinion is, okay? But just as important as it is that you speak up, because your manager wants to hear your inputs, your thoughts, your opinions, it's also important that you don't basically, consume too much of the meeting, that you're not allowing your peers and other people to also contribute. Next, presentations and conferences. It's a great way to tell the world basically what you're capable of, what you've worked on, and the achievements that you have. So anytime that you get an opportunity to give a presentation or to go to a conference to give a presentation, it's a great way to get recognition both inside of your company as well as outside of your company. So take those opportunities. Next is what I call power of the pen. Power of the pen is basically the person who writes what I call the minutes. In every meeting that we hold at Intel, we have somebody who writes the minutes of that meeting. And the person who writes those minutes is the person I consider who has the power of the pen. That power of the pen is the ability to capture what the decisions that were made in that meeting. And it's their interpretation of it. So it actually holds a lot of power and it gets a lot of visibility and it will get referred to over and over again. Because a lot of times people will say, well, what decision was made? And we'll say, hey, let's go back, look at the minutes and see. And this person will always be recognized because their name's on it for having written the minutes and the decisions that were made. And they'll be the person that they refer to and go back to ask if they need any clarifying questions. So power of the pen. So last but not least, don't be afraid to shine. Basically, communicating is your ability to shine. It's your ability to stand out from the crowd. And you want to take every opportunity you can get to stand out from the crowd, stand out from your peers, to show your boss, to show others what you're capable of doing. So that basically is my presentation materials. What I would like to do before we go into the Q&A portion is I'd like to, as CEO at Faculty, I've brought some of my team here today who have graciously agreed to work with me on the CEO of Faculty, and they are delegates for the IAP and the industrial supervisors. So I'd like them to come up to the stage. and I'll give you a brief introduction to each one of them, and then also to a few of the individuals who could not make it today, but are nonetheless willing to collaborate with this school to basically make changes. So first is Velu. He's a principal engineer. He works in Texas, in the U.S. He is an industrial supervisor, a designate to be an industrial supervisor in order to basically help and mentor some individuals on research programs that they're working on. He's he's a validation architect since 2016. He's one of the key drivers and chair of the technical leadership program to grow and mentor and sustain the technical leadership inside of Intel, which is why he'll be great in this position here at Unimap. Prior to working at Intel, he worked at Texas Instruments, so he has multiple, besides Intel, he's also worked at other companies that he can apply his knowledge in helping basically in some of the programs. So that's Velu. Moving on, we got Musoon right there. So Musoon is an IAP designate, and he has 22 years of experience working on platform solution design, FPGA RTL, and embedded and firmware development. He works in my organization and is currently working on our board development and has brought a lot of significant innovation into our board development and a lot of cost reductions that I'm incredibly appreciative of him being a part of my group. So he is here. He's also an industry advisory panel member for UCSI University. So I think he'll be a great addition. Next, we have Tat Hin. His expertise is in signal power integrity and test tooling hardware and platforms, an expertise in electromagnetic modeling and TDR and RF characterization. He's worked as an analog circuit designer and a microarchitect. He's designed state machines for advanced low power digital DLLs. He did the DDR2 and 3 interface microarchitecture for the Intel chipset and SoCs, and he's got a long list also working on HBM2. So very, very long stream of accomplishments. Next, we have Wei Lin. He's a designate for industrial supervisor. His expertise is FPGA configuration and security, partial reconfiguration, fuse, SDM. He's got a long list there. He has done the configuration and power on. He's been the expert for us for 6 generations of FPGAs. He's got an in-depth knowledge of the FPGA architecture and firmware validation. He defined and validated hardware or software DFX for the product testability in debug access, and lots of other important contributions that he is making to Altera and to Intel now. Intel purchased Altera. So thank you, Wei Lin. Then we have KB. He's an IAP designate. He's got 27 years of semiconductor manufacturers environment. He's semiconductor assembly manufacturing, hermetic packages, PGA package, and flip chip package assembly line. Since 2000, he's been focusing on assembly manufacturing experts and the OSAT model. So that OSAT model is for those people that do assembly and test outside of Intel as a business. Customer issues, new package design, assembly, and process technology. He's currently focusing on RoHS 6 to be EU lead-free compliant for European community. So thank you very much, KB. Next we have CK, Industrial Supervisor Designate. He's got 23 years in Intel, specializing in high-speed, low-power CPU design. He's recently focused on soft CPU overlay architecture and enabling ease of use of FPGA and making FPGAs the accelerator of choice. So he's basically developing the way that external software users of an FPGA will be able to load on multiple multi-core CPUs onto an FPGA in a very easy way of doing it. His area of interest including but not limited to smart city embedded systems and the CPU architecture in FPGA architecture. So thank you very much, CK. And that's our group. I think, right? We're not missing anyone. Thank you. So that's the group of individuals. And next we enter into what would be the Q&A session. So I'm a very open person, but I'm not going to watch myself. So I'm open to any types of questions that you might have, so feel free to. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. So let me take the one up there, and then I'll take, if you don't mind coming down.
Hello. Yeah, wonderful speech given by you, ma'am. Thank you very much for coming here today, and thank you, UniMap, as well for giving me the chance to join this program. So about like what you said just now, like we have to speak up and we have to be an effective communicator in giving our ideas, right?
Yes.
So I've done my diploma and now I'm continuing my degree. In the past experience, when I've done my diploma, I went for my internship. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to mention the company where I work.
Okay.
From what I see, that speaking up has like given me a bad experience, because in some companies where I have joined, for instance, some engineers told me that if you have an idea, if you're smart at something, don't show it, because once you do it, everyone's job will become your job. What you're not supposed to do, you will have to do. And yeah, that is what I faced before. And another thing is that sometimes I have an idea, so I approach my engineer and gave him the idea. So let's say, why don't we can do it this way? Yeah. And instead of discussing with other people, he took that idea and he used that idea and he did something for himself which benefited him and him only. And in the end, I ended up doing what I was supposed to do. And that idea, he got it, he went somewhere else. So what is your opinion about this? Like, should we, in this kind of situation, what am I supposed to do? Am I like supposed to just do what I'm supposed to do, continue my job, or am I supposed to resign and leave the job?
Yeah. It sounds like you've unfortunately had a bad experience. I would disagree on your first point. Speaking up, basically, if you speak up and you tell someone how to do something better, you'll end up getting more work. I personally believe that that's a good thing. I truly do. It gives you better opportunities, and you will excel in your career faster than someone who doesn't speak up, even if it does mean more work. Okay. That always look at that as more opportunity, okay? So, and then on the second point, which is you had a great idea, you shared it, and you unfortunately shared it to a person who was what I consider to be dishonorable. They took your idea, didn't give the credit to you. That will happen. Life is like that. There's good people and there's bad people, right? It's an unfortunate part of the world. I would not let one bad experience taint you. I would continue to do what you're doing, and more times than not, you will generally get the credit for it. There are more good people, thank God, in this world that are good than there are this dishonorable bad ones. One learning that you might take away from it is when you share an idea, document it in an email to the person. I shared this idea with you today. Just, you know, I just wanted to, you know, document what I shared with you, what value I think it will bring, and if you have any further questions, please feel free. That allows you always to have that reference to go back to if, you know, this dishonorable thing happens and somebody gets the opportunity that you were deserving of.
Yes. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Did you have a question? Yeah.
It's a kind of more serious question, I think.
Okay.
So I think if anyone alert about our Prime Minister, Malaysia Prime Minister has announced about the SPV 2030.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so actually the aim is to boosting Malaysia economy as well to promote the we call it integrate harmonious relations. Okay, so my question is, so in this context, what roles has been played by Intel or plan to do to assist Malaysian government and the communities to achieve quality, decent life as supported by the SDG, the strategic development goals. So what is the plan by Intel then?
Yeah. So today, you know, I'm not the best person to be able to speak to that topic. So what I can do is connect you with our public relations group inside of Intel and have them be able to answer that question. They'll have much more knowledge than I would as an engineering manager inside of Intel. Yes.
Okay, sorry. I'm very...
Okay. You're very loud.
Yeah. Actually, for Industrial 4.0, is it? Challenge, you know? What about any disruption technologies or anything related to Intel for time being?
What kind of disruptive technologies is Intel bringing about for the Industrial 4.0?
Yeah.
So Intel is developing many new products that basically enable the Industrial 4.0 is a lot about automation and automating the assembly lines, the industry, and a lot of that is run off of Intel products, and we're constantly announcing new products to be able to make automation, be able to make artificial intelligence, basically bring value to the assembly lines. Yes.